Welcome back to the Rope Drop Pod. Today I'm giving you 5 secrets to making your way around Walt Disney World. Hit that subscribe button. Now let's get into the video. Starting with number 5, walking with your own feet. Transportation may not take that long itself, but the wait for it to arrive and get you there could take a little bit longer, especially if you are on a hurry for that dining reservation. See if you can find a walking path to take advantage of, because chances are not a lot of people know about it. There are many resorts that connect to a park or to Disney Springs. For instance, you can walk from the Contemporary Resort to Magic Kingdom and Saratoga Springs to Disney Springs. I think that there are a lot of good things and bad things about this. The trip itself, you're already walking all day long. A lot of times, if I have to wait an extra 10 minutes for a bus to arrive, I'm usually the person that will probably do that. But on the flip side of that, I will say that I've never stayed on the boardwalk in a resort. I've never stayed in one of the deluxe resorts. And so I feel like those resorts that have an opportunity to walk to a park or walk to Disney Springs, I just haven't done. So maybe I'd feel a little bit different about that, because I'm sure, having the opportunity to walk rather than waiting for a bus when you could just walk when it's right there probably is helpful. So I can see kind of both sides of walking kind of being a good or a bad thing. I think it would be so cool to stay on the boardwalk and just literally walk over to Epcot, when you're staying at a resort over there. But other than that, that's kind of my opinion on as far as walking as a form of transportation. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I guess I feel like there's so many factors that might go into it. On your first couple days, you're pretty fresh, especially in the morning, and you might be like, yes, let's bop on over there and go down the walking. But I also feel like at night, even though I'm a reasonably fit person and all of that, and I exercise, whatever, I don't know, there's just something different about the walking. At Disney, your feet muscles get tired and your legs kind of start to ache by a few days in. And I feel like, at the end of the day, maybe I don't want to walk an extra half mile or mile home. Maybe I just want to hop a bus. But I also feel like when you do have your legs are really achy and tired and your feet muscles are crying out, sometimes standing is almost worse than moving. Sometimes it's worse when you're in a long line and you get stuck and you're just oh my God, I need to move these legs or whatever. So I don't know, maybe if there's a long line for the transportation, maybe you're not too dumb to go walking. I don't know. I think it just really depends on how you feel and kind of where you are in your trip maybe, and also the heat. There's a lot of factors.
I'm imagining closing out, you just close out Magic Kingdom and maybe you're staying at the Contemporary and you're exhausted, you've been there since park opening. I think in that circumstance, because I can picture in my head the walk from the Contemporary from the Magic Kingdom is pretty short, and so in that case I might walk, because I feel like it would make a lot more sense because you're so close. But I just haven't really had experience in any other place to really walk. So, but it is an option. I feel like whenever we talk about transportation in Disney, we're just so focused on the buses or the Skyliner or the monorail, and there are actually resorts that you can stay at that have walking paths to parks and things like that. So
yeah. And I think, do you ever see these crazy people that when I'm at Disney, I don't feel oh, I need to go to the fitness center, because no, I'm, you're walking all day, and I'm not saying you're getting cardio, but you are moving, you're burning calories, whatever. And I just don't feel the need to go and do extra workouts. But I'm always amazed at these people that you'll see they're up at the crack of dawn and they're running the running and walking trails at the resorts. And I'm you're doing that before you go and walk, 10 to 20,000 steps today? Who are you people?
I know.
But they do exist. So I'm sure those people are heck yeah, let's walk on home. So good for them.
I know. I've done a couple, when I did the video at Pop Century in Coronado, I remember specifically seeing those running trail maps, and I'm I would never use that, but it's crazy that, there are people that get up and go for a run before they go walk all day long. But that's amazing. Wish I could do it. Couldn't do it.
I know. Props to them. It's not happening over here. I'm the one that's popping a couple ibuprofen at night on night 3 so that I can still walk on day 4.
Yes.
I'm not running.
Literally. Number 4, when you board the monorail, walk all the way to the end. When you head to the end of the platform, chances are you may get your own private car, or you may be with a few less people. This could vary on peak travel times, but if you're on it during the middle of the day, you could be in your own car. The Disney monorail system is a crucial and iconic part of the Disney World experience, serving as both a mode of transportation and a source of excitement for visitors. I looked this one up and I was I don't know if is this something that a lot of people do, but it is something that I always do without necessarily thinking about it. But when you board the monorail, head to the end of the line or the platform, at the very end of where everybody is standing, because usually when people board the monorail, they get in the first few lanes that are like right in front of them. If you go towards the end of the monorail, you can get maybe a spot with your own space or maybe just a few less people. I don't know. I feel like that's such a small tip, but it's also something that I kind of do every single time I go. It just, anytime that I can be around a lesser amount of people is good, because you're trying to buy people all day long. So anything small, I feel like it helps.
And I think too, if you have a wheelchair or a stroller, it's super helpful as well, because you just have a little more of that space. But I will say, having pushed my aunt in a wheelchair a lot last summer, the people on the monorail were some of the best. Like, they were so accommodating, and you know, she was completely able to transfer and everything. I didn't need to wheel her on, but they were like at the ready with those little ramps and like making sure we had what we needed. And she was like, you know, I can pop out and board, and we'd fold up the thing and pop it in. But it's nice to have a little extra room. So it's like anytime I can sit, you know, and obviously I'm going to give up my seat to an older person or pregnant person, whatever. But anytime that you can sit guilt-free and like have some space, it's really nice.
Yes. Oh my gosh. When you said give up your seat, that makes me think of a story. When Zach and I were there last summer, we were on the bus and it was the end of the night. Basically, Zach like went to give up his seat to an elderly person, and someone else next to him had already done that, but they said no. Like, they were like very prideful that they wanted to stand. And so then other people started to give up their seat, but they didn't realize that the interaction had happened with Zach. And then Zach really just started to feel like, he's like, oh my gosh, I feel like the worst person in the world, because I swear I asked this person, but they were not giving it up. So, or they did not want it. And I don't know. It was really funny. I remember getting back to the resort and we were laughing about it because it was very awkward. It was so awkward. And they'd flip the lights on, you know, when they get to the stop, and it's just Zach, me, and these two young people and these elderly people standing next to us, and everybody's just kind of looking at us, and I'm like, I swear we tried, you know. But it was,
you want to stand up with a sign and be like, we asked, we are good humans.
Yes.
So my aunt like forgets sometimes, because she's 75 and super proud of it, so I'm not talking out of school, but she forgets sometimes. And so sometimes, like this summer, we were sitting there and she offered her seat to someone, and they kind of just looked at her like, what? And she was like, never mind, I'll keep it. She wants to be nice, but I'm like, no, like, you can have the seat now. You gave up your seat for a long time.
She's on the other end now. She doesn't realize it.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. She does not think of herself that way. And I'm always like, no, you don't need to offer, honey. You need to take the seat.
Number 3, consider transportation when choosing your hotel. When staying on Disney property, some hotels only offer bus services as a form of transportation, and some have some other options such as the monorail, Skyliner, or even boat. It may be better to pick something closer to the theme parks with multiple forms of transportation, but keep in mind this can cost more. However, time really is money in Disney. You're only there for a limited amount of time, and there's so much to do, so the more that you can limit how much time you waste on transportation, the better. I've kind of talked about this before, but Pop Century is my favorite value, because not only do you get the buses as a form of transportation, you also get the Skyliner, and I feel like that's such a huge perk, especially for a value resort. And so it's just something to think about, because I feel like a lot of people don't realize that the resorts don't always have the same type of transportation. So
yeah, I agree with you. I think that's a big thing that like rookies don't know, and they don't always, you know, like I remember even when I used the Skyliner for the first time, confusing, because I feel like now it's like, okay, well, these 3 resorts are on the monorail, but then, you know, sometimes you have to transfer to the from the resort monorail to the parks monorail to get where you want to go. It's a little confusing. And then now it's like we throw the Skyliner in, and it's like, okay, well, the Skyliner goes to these 2 parks, but the monorail goes to these 2, and it is a lot. Like it's a lot to figure out. I've never really stayed. I'm like you. I've only stayed Skyliner at the value resorts, because you and I have stayed at Art of Animation and Pop together. But I've never stayed at Caribbean Beach or Riviera or anybody else that has Skyliner. I've always wanted to stay over by the Epcot resorts. I just haven't yet. So because I love the idea of, number 1, like we were saying earlier, being able to walk to Epcot, and then number 2, being able to catch that Skyliner right there is so nice. So I really want to stay at one of the Epcot resorts in the near future.
Me too.
Well, maybe we need to make, like, next time we go, maybe we need to make that, like, that's what we need to do.
I'm totally down for that, actually.
Because my aunt has no interest in staying over there. She just
really
doesn't. And yeah, she just doesn't. I'm not going to change her mind on that. She loves, like, truly loves her moderates. She loves Coronado, and she loves Port Orleans French Quarter. And I do too,
Okay.
and that's fine.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to stay there. But yeah, like maybe next time you and I go, we should try one of the Epcot resorts and just see if we like
Yeah.
it as much as we think we're going to.
Right.
I just want people to keep in mind that it's really fun to do like some resort hopping. Like you can either do a restaurant crawl, a bar crawl, whatever, but it's fun to kind of hop on the monorail and hit all 3 monorail resorts and just do, what, maybe at the holidays you want to see the Christmas decorations, maybe you want to stop and get an adult beverage somewhere or have dinner, or maybe, appetizer here, dinner here. There's just so many creative ways that you can use the monorail, and you can do the same thing on the Skyliner. Just do some resort hopping. It's fun to just take an evening or a day, an afternoon, and just hop around, maybe get a snack here, check something out here, look at the gift shops. It's just kind of fun.
I totally agree. I feel like a lot of people think that you can't go to other resorts if you're not staying there. And that's not the case. You totally can. I personally love to go to the Riviera and go to that quick service that actually Lauren and Emily showed us, because I am dying to have that. What was it, like a grilled cheese or something of some sandwich that we got with like tomato soup.
Oh yeah.
It was so good, and I have not had it since, and I really want it.
Yeah.
But anyways,
like once you stay at all the a lot of different places, you do get your favorite things. Like, I'm not kidding. That turkey dinner at Pop Century is delicious.
Yeah.
It is like Thanksgiving in a box, and I love getting it. It's giant. I don't need it all, but it is so good. And you do end up with like your favorite little things. Everybody, of course, loves the beignets at French Quarter and stuff like that. But yeah, each place, I love that each place has like their individual kind of specialties. And so it is fun to hop around and look. And even all the gift shops are different. It's not all the same merchandise. So it's really fun.
Yeah. My mom used to love going to all the resorts and getting like a magnet for each resort. And I think she still kind of does that. But small things like that you can do that I don't think people realize that you can do. Number 2, avoid staying at a resort with a shared bus system. While these hotels may seem convenient at first glance, relying on an internal bus transportation can often lead to a less than optimal experience. Internal buses can be subject to delays, overcrowding, and frequent stops, which can eat up valuable vacation time and lead to frustration. Choosing accommodations within walking distance to the parks or utilizing alternative transportation methods like the monorail or the Skyliner can offer a more seamless and enjoyable experience, allowing you to maximize your time in the parks and reduce the hassle of waiting for and navigating internal bus routes. I've stayed at resorts that do have a bus, has multiple stops within the resort itself. And since I recently stayed at the Tower at Coronado and I was the first one to be picked up, that meant that I had to wait for everybody else to kind of be loaded on the bus before heading towards the park. And then at the end of the night, I was the last stop. So I think the biggest thing for this is just to kind of be aware, not leaving only 30 minutes before you need to be at a dining reservation. Or if you're trying to rope drop, also something to kind of consider as well, because it could take a little bit extra time since the bus does go to other parts of the resort. I don't have one strong opinion one way or the other. I think it is a lot nicer when there's only one bus at a resort, but I've stayed at both. So I guess that's kind of my opinion about it.
I always at least warn guests, like if they, because I do love Coronado. I think it's probably my favorite moderate. And I really think it has a deluxe feel with a moderate price, which I love, especially staying in the tower. I mean, you and I haven't stayed there together, but we've both stayed there and we both loved it. Sometimes you're coming home late after the parks and you're like, oh my, I don't want to be the last stop. Okay, it is what it is if you like that resort. I do love French Quarter for that reason, because I'm just not a huge Caribbean beach fan. Even though they have the Skyliner, it's just not my favorite resort. But I do love French Quarter, not only because of the atmosphere and it's so quiet and it's so beautiful, but one bus. It's a small resort, one bus, one-stop shop. And, especially if you get one of those preferred rooms up closer to the bus stop, you're never gonna wait long or have to go around the resort like you do at Coronado or Caribbean or whatever. So it's nice.
I have never stayed at French Quarter before. I've been there and I would love to stay there, but never stayed. I've stayed at Riverside.
It's really, really cute. I've never stayed at Riverside because it's bigger, and then you have the multi-bus stop going on.
Yes,
right.
But
I do love, a lot of people don't realize you can also take the boat from both French Quarter and Riverside right over to Disney Springs. So sometimes if we want to go to Disney Springs for dinner or whatever, we'll just take the boat, and it's so relaxing. It's really nice to ride the canal. So that's a nice little bonus of both of those resorts. It's kind of back in the back, and not people, even some people that stay there, I think, don't realize that that's an option.
Good to know. I don't think I realized that was an option, but Good tip. My number one secret to getting around Walt Disney World is using a rideshare like a Lyft, a minivan to get to those early dining reservations. Opting for a rideshare service like Uber or Lyft can be the best choice for early dining reservations at Disney World for several compelling reasons. First, rideshares offer flexibility and control over your transportation, allowing you to schedule a pickup at your preferred time, ensuring you arrive punctually for your reservation. This is particularly crucial for those coveted early breakfast reservations before the parks open. Rideshares also eliminate the need for parking, which can be time-consuming and challenging to secure during peak hours. Moreover, they offer door-to-door service, dropping you off directly at the restaurant's entrance, saving you from potentially long walks or waits for an internal transportation. Additionally, rideshares are efficient and readily available, ensuring you have a reliable means of transportation to and from your dining destination, making your Disney dining experience as stress-free and enjoyable as possible. I've been there before where I've relied on a Disney bus to get me to a park and then walking to my dining reservation within the park and then panicking because traffic is taking a little bit longer or the bus is just taking whatever it is. I just didn't plan out enough time and then I'm stressed because I'm late to my dining reservation. I've been there. Disney is pretty strict about those dining reservations and you can be charged. And so just kind of be aware of that. Like just making sure that you're figuring out the location of where your dining reservation is and what type of transportation you need to use to get to your reservation. Personally, I feel a little bit strange about taking a rideshare only because I have all of these types of transportation that Disney offers for free and I don't love having to pay extra to go somewhere else. I will if I absolutely have to and I just don't have any other option, of course. I try to keep this in mind when I'm making my dining reservations. Since I've been there so much, I kind of already know, oh, well, I'm not going to be able to get there with Disney transportation. I should put a later time or whatever. So it's definitely important just to be aware of how you get to places and where they're at because some things are in the park and some things are in a resort.
It's give and take. I mean, sometimes if you really want that Topolino's reservation or that Ohana reservation or whatever, maybe you have to take it early. And people don't always realize, the Disney buses only start running about an hour before park opens. If you have a 7:30 breakfast reservation, you're not going to be able to take the bus from your resort. It's just not going to happen. So you have to figure out something else. Like she said, you've got minivans, you've got Ubers, you've got Mir's Taxi, which sometimes ends up cheaper than an Uber, believe it or not. And the front desk will arrange that for you. So I kind of like using the taxi because I don't have to worry about doing it in the morning or reserving an Uber that may or may not show up. That taxi is a sure thing. I think we Ubered from our resort to Riviera for like $12 or taxi, not Uber. And it was great. We were there in perfect time, but yeah, and maybe not, people don't realize either. I think sometimes you can have a breakfast reservation, in a park before that park actually opens. And when that's the case, you have to go, you do get into the park early, but you're basically taken straight to that breakfast. Like you're not going to get to ride rides and stuff early. They're not opening the park. But, like if you have a Curtius at Epcot, you're going to get to go in early, go straight over there and have your breakfast. And then poof, you're already in the park when it opens. So that's nice.
I don't think I've ever done that. Like I've never been at a dining reservation before the park opens. Have you?
I'm trying to think. I think like we debate it a lot, but it never actually really happens. But it is a great way to start your day because, you can do that breakfast at Garden Grill, at a Curtius, at Crystal Palace. And it is nice because you're already kind of like in the park ready to go and your tummy's full. So
yeah. And my social media brain thinks about all of the videos and pictures that you can get without anybody in the shots. And I'm like, oh, interesting.
I know, right?
But that's, I've never done that before, but I don't know. So maybe I'll try that next trip.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. As far as transportation, getting yourself to Disney, sometimes people like to fly in super early and have a park day on that first day. Some people hate doing that because it makes them feel rushed or whatever. I love doing it. I full out know I'm not going to get a full park day, but I love to fly in early, try to get a, direct flight, maybe land at 9:30 in the morning. I'm in a park by noon and I can have a really nice park day. I think that's personal preference. It just depends on your travel style and how you feel about it. But I really like doing that. How about you?
I am not park day the day I arrive, only because since I'm in the Midwest, I'm usually, I guess there are some one ways now. But I usually can't, the earliest I can get to Florida is like 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock. And so at that point,
if I'm in that boat, I wouldn't do it either.
Yeah, it's not super worth it. But yeah, if I could get there at like 9 o'clock in the morning, that would be so cool. But I've never done that before.
No,
either.
it's great because like I said, I'll check in, I'll have my bag stored. I mean, my room's usually not ready, but yeah, like we'll be like, we're not eating anything, so we'll have lunch in the park. And so we'll like head out and get lunch and then hit the day running. But yeah, I love going on the first day. It makes me feel so excited because I'm like sitting at the Charlotte airport and I know in like 5 or 6 hours, I'm going to be in a park, which just makes it even more exciting,
Yeah. I do that on my checkout days. Like sometimes I'll go to a park. If I have a later flight, I'll do that. And that feels so weird because I'm like, oh, when I get home at 8 o'clock at night or whatever, I'll think, wow, I was in Magic Kingdom this morning. Like, it's just kind of weird to think about that.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
Like, I was in Epcot today. Or like, sometimes we'll go and like, we'll get maybe like one last thing of our favorite food. Or we'll get one last ride in on something we really like. And you're right. Like you lay there in bed that night and you're like, was I on Expedition Everest like at 9 in the morning? And it seems like that was decades ago. But yeah, it's really weird. That's a strange feeling.
It is a strange feeling.